Hey guys, this is the camera with Addicted Fishing and Gone Catching Guide Service. And in this tutorial, we're going to be showing you guys how to smoke kokanee from start to finish. But I want to make sure that all you guys out there watching, that you have subscribed to our YouTube channel at Addicted Fishing. And for those of you that are looking for a good kokanee trip, be sure to check me out at Gone Catching Guide Service on Facebook. You can also email me at gonecatchin@gmail.com. The address is down below. Thanks for tuning in. All right guys, I just got back from the lake. I've got my kokanee that I headed and gutted there, ready to go. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fillet a couple of these out and we're gonna brine some whole so I can show you a couple different methods of brining for this tutorial. All right, so for the first process, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fillet a kokanee out. I've got my headed and my gutted kokanee here, and I'm gonna take my sharp fillet knife and on the top side of that backbone, run the knife all the way down the fish to separate it like that. Then, I'm gonna take the fish, flip it over, find the backbone again and run the knife right down the backbone on that side of the fillet. When I do, I should have just a very thin strip of bones there to discard. Now after a little more cleanup, I actually could throw these fillets right into the brine and I could remove these bones after the smoking process. Or I could take my knife and fillet them out right now if I choose. All right, so I've got some of these fillets with the rib bones and some that I've removed, and I'm gonna leave a couple of these whole just to demonstrate different ways of brining these kokanee. What I'll do now is I'm gonna take my fillets, and I'm gonna set these aside for a minute while I create my dry brine for the brining process. Now my dry brine for today in this kokanee tutorial is gonna be 1 part salt to 4 parts dark brown sugar. And whatever amount I'm gonna do, I'm gonna wanna make sure that I make a generous amount. I've got about 10 kokanee there. I'm gonna use 2 pounds of brown sugar and probably end up about a half a pound of salt just to make sure that I've got enough to coat all the fish. And really it's quite simple. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure out my dark brown sugar and my salt, and I'm gonna wanna mix them together in a bowl. What I like to do is I like to give the fish a quick little rinse just to get any of that extra blood out. And I'm going to put a layer with the flesh side up, skin side down in my brining container. All right, now that I've got my first layer flesh side up in the bottom of my container, I'm going to take a generous amount of brown sugar and I'm going to start coating the top of the fish. I'm gonna make sure that I have a good healthy layer, and now I'm gonna add the next batch of fish directly on top of it, skin side down, flesh side up. Now one thing I'm going to say is never skimp on your dry brine. You're going to want to make sure that all your fillets and all your whole pieces in here are completely covered and coated. This way it lets that brown sugar and that salt absorb into all angles of the meat. Now I'm a little bit lighter than I want to be right here, so I'm actually going to make up some more dry brine just to make sure I get a good coating on this fish. All right, so that was about 2 pounds of brown sugar. So I've made my dry brine. I'm ready to go. I'm just gonna seal this up and I'm gonna put it in my fridge. Now, depending on how heavy you like your fish brine, you can either wanna leave that in there for anywhere between 8 hours and 2 days. I myself, I like a little bit of a heavier brine, more of a candied style of fish. So I'm actually gonna leave this in there for 2 days. That might not fit your guys' preference on how salty you want your fish, so you're gonna wanna adjust your times accordingly. Now after a few hours, you're gonna notice that there's gonna be a lot of liquid in your container. And what that is the moisture getting pulled out of the fish by the brown sugar and the salt, and that's a good thing because it's brining the fillets. Now, if you're gonna brine your fish for more than a day, what I recommend doing is going out and actually kind of stirring and mixing those fillets up just to make sure that you get nice, even brining throughout all the fillets. All right, so now what I'm gonna do to get ready to smoke these fillets is I'm gonna take these out of the brine and I'm gonna give them just a really light rinse. I'm gonna knock off any scales that I see there and knock off any of the extra brine. All right guys, so I've got my smoker ready and I'm gonna lay out my kokanee fillets on the grill. It's really important that you get the fish somewhat dry so it forms a little bit of a seal on the flesh side of the fish. It's gonna allow the smoke to take better and you're gonna get a better textured fish when you're done. Now one thing that I like to do to help that pellicle form is since I rinsed off those fillets real lightly, I like to take a paper towel and just try to grab some of that extra moisture off the tops of the fish. Now we're gonna let them dry for a little bit. All right guys, I've got my kokanee fillets dried. I've got my smoker up to about 120 to 140 degrees, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use that just to get the smoke started on the fish. The last thing that I like to do is take some coarse black pepper and sprinkle it over the fillets. Now kokanee fillets are really thin and really delicate, and you don't need the longer smoke times associated with smoking like larger salmon or steelhead. So what I like to do is keep my temperature about 120 to 140 degrees for about 2 to 3 hours, and then I'm going to want to make sure that I bring my smoker temperature up at the final stages of smoking just to make sure I bring those fillets up to 165 degrees, which is what is recommended to make sure that the fish is completely done. All right guys, so there you have it. I smoked my kokanee at about 140 degrees for about 3 to 4 hours, and then for the last little bit, I moved my smoker up to 180 degrees just to make sure it was finished off. My end product here is a nice, super oily, nice and moist smoked kokanee, and it's gonna be absolutely delicious to bring on fishing trips. If you guys like what you see here, be sure to check us out at Addicted Fishing, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and look up Gone Catching Guide Service for your next kokanee trip. We'll see you guys on the water.